Stay close, Bullit.
Dark and ominous forests, totems made of twigs, twine and photos of people stood in corners, glitchy cameras playing unsettling videotapes, and the ever-looming force of the Blair Witch. After several naff sequels and spin-offs, this stuff could feel played out. Despite going into a hands-on preview of the new Blair Witch game by Layers of Fear and Observer developers Bloober team feeling sceptical, I left with my expectations exceeded in a lot of ways, and I'm actually looking forward to playing more of it when it releases at the end of the month. It's set 2 years after Blair Witch Project and follows ex-cop and war veteran Ellis as he searches for Peter Shannon, a child who goes missing in Black Hills Forest. Massia Glomb, who I spoke to after playing the demo, told me that the team have been given the entire Blair Witch universe to play around with, while also being able to infuse the game with their own creative license. I have a couple of concerns, but nowhere near as many as I did before I sat down in a dark and spooky booth and played what Bloober team had to offer. So, here are 7 ways Blair Witch gives us confidence and cause for concern. But first, thanks to Logitech G and the G432 7.1 surround sound gaming headset for sponsoring this video. To check out the tech behind the G432, click the link in the description. If you've seen anything of Blair Witch yet, you probably know about Bullit, main protagonist Ellis's trusty dog companion. He's so big and fluffy! And the way he works in the game is actually pretty interesting. The Blair Witch curse, as was explained to me in a very non-scary PowerPoint presentation, causes anyone afflicted by it to, much like in the films, get horribly lost when they wander about in the Black Hills forest. Dogs aren't affected by this, apparently, so Bullit will serve as your guiding force throughout the game, and you'll be following him when he sniffs out the right direction to explore. You can order him to seek out any useful items in the environment. For me, that feature didn't come up a lot. Tell him to stay put, feed him treats, and if you're feeling a bit uneasy, ask him to heal and stay close to you. You can also pet him whenever you want, or reprimand him if you're a prick. This decision to pet or scold, and even whether or not you feed him treats, plays into the narrative of the game, and can impact which one of the multiple endings you might get, but more on that in a second. Bullit factors into how the horror of Blair Witch impacts you as a player too. I always felt that bit safer around him, and found myself reflexively using the stay close command a lot in my time with the game. This made the moments where Bloober team snatched Bullit away for some segments ramp up in tension. Near the beginning of the demo, a storm suddenly struck some swamplands I'd been walking through, and I had to desperately chase after Bullit, who constantly faded in and out of my peripheral vision. This ended up with me stumbling through the dirt tunnels underneath a colossal tree, and suddenly realising Bullit had disappeared terrified me. This alone completely justifies Bullit's inclusion in the game, though the ability to do a pet is equally as essential. But as excited as I am to tell you you can pet the dog, I am also sad to inform you that no, you won't get to pet the Blair Witch. Blair Witch Project was arguably as scary as it was because you never actually saw the eponymous Blair Witch. That ambiguity, the fear of the unknown, is incredibly effective and one that the film made use of well. The Blair Witch game follows suit with this, and at no point will we see the Blair Witch. Glomb told me that Bloober don't see the witch as a physical entity and instead regard her more as a force of nature. The Blair Witch impacts your journey in a few different ways, largely through psychological means. You'll never meet her face to face though. I think that's what a lot of people were particularly concerned about when the Blair Witch game was announced at E3 this year, myself included. This understanding of what made the original film as effective as it was is a relief then, though admittedly unsurprising given Bloober's usual style. That doesn't mean you won't run into some physical foes though. There were a couple of times in the demo where I ran into these shadowy, tree-like entities that lurked just barely out of sight in the underbrush. To fend them off, I had to squint my eyes and make use of Bullit's keener senses to figure out where they were standing, shine my torch on them until they took damage, and repeat until they scurried away into the darkness. As far as I'm aware, these long-limbed tree things come from the 2016 Blair Witch movie. Having only watched the original film and its film-within-a-film sequel, Book of Shadows, I don't know how successful they were on the big screen, but I don't know if I especially like them. I kind of enjoy the flashlight combat. It's very Alan Wake if bloody difficult when you're trying to figure out what the hell you're looking at. And I understand the need to have an ever-present threat that feels somewhat tangible when you're playing a horror game. but especially through the lens of that original film, I'm unsure. They weren't especially invasive in the demo, and were used mainly for some spooky uncertainty in the woods, one jump scare and a tense encounter in a corridor though, so we'll have to wait and see how they fare in the full release. Bloober team are also talking up a behavioural tracking system that underpins how the game plays out. Rather than a series of moral choices, Blair Witch apparently follows how you move around in the game, what items you interact with, how you treat your dog, whether you leave or destroy Twanas, those stick people that pop up a lot in any and all things Blair Witch, and whether you answer phone calls and what you decide to say in those phone calls, will all factor into what actually happens in the game. There was a very similar system in the underrated Silent Hill Shattered Memories, the Wii one about 5 people, including me, played, but we all had quite bespoke spooks, and so it could be good here too. Maybe it will just feed into the multiple endings, which are something Bloober have confirmed for the game. How those endings differ, and how much your actions impact which one you're going to get, is uncertain for now. There are lots of games that play with different endings. Some do them well and feature a lot of variation. Others are like the ending of Mass Effect 3, where you got to choose what colour of laser light show you see. Here's hoping that for Blair Witch, it's the former. Having the different endings be what colour are all the leaves on the trees painted after you inevitably die at the end would be a bit silly. One ending I do dread is that they might kill the dog. On the one hand, it might just be traumatic conditioning from every other video game ever that's done exactly the same thing. On the other hand, a segment of the demo from a later chapter in the game where you explore the witch's house saw Bullit notably absent. I don't know if it's just because he's waiting outside like a good boy, but him suddenly being gone for an entire chunk of the preview, and not just for a brief set piece, did make me consider his untimely death as a possibility. Whether Bullit lives or dies might factor into that tracked behaviour Bloober team has spoken about. This is only a speculation on my part, but the fact that how you treat him throughout the game has been confirmed to play a factor into this tracking does make me wonder. It's unfortunate that killing the dog is such a trope in games now, but the fact remains that it is, and I just hope it doesn't happen here unless there's a really good reason for it. If it's a case of treat the dog bad and it'll die, it'd feel cheap. If anything, treating Bullit bad should warrant you dying, because that would make you a right b****.
Come here. Stick close to me.
For a game that largely has you walking about around some trees, Bloober team have managed to make Blair Witch look absolutely gorgeous. Look at this swamp, and the density of this foliage! With a few subtle elements added to the environments, Blackfield's Forest feels, forgive the cliche, alive. Well, more alive than those silly campers who go wandering into it. It feels like an actual forest, not just some trees copy-pasted about the place. This is important besides just looking pretty, because that organic design lends itself to the atmosphere. If it were just the same 8 identical trees painted around the mise-en-scène, you wouldn't get that sense of agency. Everything would come off as if it was a film set, rather than an actual woods containing very real, unseen threats. Bloober's attention to detail, look at how this tree here has fallen into the others, and the extent to which that detail is infused throughout the environment makes you feel vulnerable because of just how overwhelming it all is. The 2016 Blair Witch movie played around a lot with time and paradoxes. Bloober have taken a pinch of inspiration from this idea with how found tapes work in the game. If you find a red tape in the environment, you'll be able to watch it on your camcorder, fast forwarding and reversing to your heart's content. Doing this in certain areas will actually manipulate your environment. Like here, where pausing the tape as a character opens a door, opens the same previously closed door that I'm stood in front of. That mechanic only really got some airtime in this moment of the demo. It'll be really interesting to see what else Bloober do with the idea though, as it's a little bit unique and feels rife with all sorts of different possibilities. Perhaps following suit with the flashlight combat, we'll see moments where we need to use the tape manipulation to fend off some nasty monsters. Perhaps a person in the tape knocking something off a ledge or throwing an item through a window will let us pick it up. There's a lot you could do here. In fact, there's a lot that can be done with many of Blair Witch's ideas, which inspires some optimism. I hope the concerns I have will very quickly be answered once I actually get to have a proper play of the full game. Until then though, the approach Bloober team are taking with Blair Witch as an atmospheric psychological horror experience is great to see. Lionshead, the film producers, scouted Bloober out for this project for a reason, and it's because this universe really does feel great for them. And after the rather soggy spooks of Layers of Fear 2, I hope this is a return to form. And thanks again to Logitech G for sponsoring this video, featuring 50mm audio drivers, a 6mm mic and DTS Headphone X 2.0 surround sound technology under the hood. The G432 headset immerses you in the action and ensures you'll always be heard for a complete gaming experience. Find out how to order yours by following the link in the description. How excited and or nervous are you for the Blair Witch game? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this preview, why not give it a like and subscribe to Rock Paper Shotgun to see more videos like it. Thanks for watching and hopefully see you again soon.